For dear participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me join my colleagues. First of all, to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of India, the FICCI, and various institutions for organizing this forum and inviting me to present my presentations on translating ASEAN-India's statement, vision's statement. And when we talk about the role of India in Southeast Asia, about India-ASEAN relations with our colleagues from the region and from outside the region, we also make some comparisons between India's role, India's position, India's influence in the region with other external powers. And there is a tentative agreement among us when we make that comparisons. When people talk about the role of China, Japan, and the United States, everyone agrees that they are the current, the actual power, and they are exercising their influence within the region. And about India, we have been asking ourselves there's not much visible presence in India in the region, although there is an increasing role, increasing influence presence in India in the region. So we talk of India as the potential power, but after I have come to this conference, it is the first dialogue, daily dialogue that I have attended. So we have intensive discussions with various institutions, scholars, and participants here. So we see more determination, more commitment from both India and ASEAN to strengthen our ties, to make India more visible, more present in the region. So that is a welcoming sign from India, and we welcome that. And when we look at the relationship, the vision statement, we see that the vision statement is built upon the mutual recognition of the importance of India, of ASEAN, and as well as the ever-increasing ties between India and ASEAN since India and ASEAN signed the partnership for peace and shared prosperity in 1992. Many people have touched upon about the growing ties between India and ASEAN, and I would like to focus on the three reasons that facilitate the ties between India and ASEAN over the past years. The first reason is that there is a high level of mutual trust between India and ASEAN. That is very important if you compare that to the trust that ASEAN has with the other powers outside the region. The ASEAN members don't see India has a desire to dominate Southeast Asia or any individual member countries in ASEAN. And also, ASEAN members see India is playing an active role in maintaining peace and stability within the region. From ASEAN, from India's perspective, we see that India does not see ASEAN is being used by any other powers outside the region to contain or to weaken India. The second reason for the improvement of the relations between ASEAN and India over the past few years is lies upon the strong determination of the political leaders from ASEAN and India to cement and consolidate our ties. As early as 1990s, India has formulated the Look It policy. So we see that the orientations India's policy towards the region is perhaps India is the first among the major power countries that is pivoting to Southeast Asia, to the region, much earlier than the US, pivoting or rebalancing, to Southeast Asia or East Asia, or Japan, strengthening ties with Southeast Asia. And ASEAN sees the importance of India as an emerging, a huge market for ASEAN products. So we see that the increased ties with India would be of beneficial for ASEAN's economic development, ASEAN's future. And for India, they are one of the few countries that recognize the importance of ASEAN for economic development and the future of India as well. And also, from ASEAN perspective, by forming the partnership with India, we also want to diversify our relations with the other major powers. We see that the important elements for the maintenance of peace and security in the region is or lies in the way that we have the major powers to be engaged in the region as much as possible. It is not about the balance power, but it is about the balance of interest. When the major powers have more and more vested interest in this region, they would have to balance among themselves. They would have to maintain and assure peace and security for the region. And a third reason for the development in our relations is that our relation starts from a rather low point. So it is easier to see the dramatic improvement in our bilateral relations. Now, come to the recommendations on how to translate the ASEAN-India vision statement. So when we look at the 6-page statement, we see that the statement is too comprehensive. I asked my colleagues and my friends to see if there are any things that we can add on. We are unable to find anything, but that is also the problem because of the comprehensiveness. And also we see that we have to take into considerations of our limited financial and human resources. So we can't carry all the elements that has been embedded in the statement. I would like to pick up a few points that I think are of critical importance. And these would serve as the pioneer projects, would have the spread out effects, and would also be easier to be implemented. My first recommendation is to strengthen the scholarly exchanges among various institutions within India and Vietnam. In 2009, Prime Minister of India initiated the idea to set up the ASEAN-India think tanks, and in 2012, the launch of the ASEAN-India network think tanks in India has been materialized. So we would like to see the utilizations of the existing networks within ASEAN that we have, the ASEAN ICS network. So we would like to link that, with various institutions in India, and also the linkages among the various research institutions in individual ASEAN members and India. And we see that when we have the economic, political, diplomatic, defense cooperations that are increased, the strategic linkages, the scholarly exchanges would have or would serve as the firmer foundations for our relations to move forward. So that is my first recommendation. The second recommendation is that we need to have the early conclusion of the ASEAN-India services and investment agreement. That is critical. If we look at a broader picture, that is the U.S. is now, or there are several high standard FTAs that are in the process of either negotiations or in the process of conclusion this year, like TPP, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Agreement, the ASEAN Economic Community, etc. So if we have the ASEAN, the agreement between ASEAN and India on services and investment, that will serve as a critical element to help us to frame the RCEP negotiations. And my third recommendation is about the connectivity. So I think that connectivity between India and ASEAN should be modeled after ASEAN connectivity. That is the infrastructure connectivity, institutional connectivity, and people-to-people connectivity. In terms of infrastructure connectivity, we need to focus not only on land connectivity, as many people have mentioned about the India-Myanmar highway corridor. We also need to focus on air and sea connectivity as well. So that would come to the recommendations on the open of the direct flights between India's major cities and ASEAN's major cities as well. So now we see only a few direct flights from the regions with India, and also we I need one more minute about the role of the PPP in facilitating that. The fourth recommendation concerns the human resources in 5 areas. One is language skill for personnel from ASEAN. We also need the trainings from India on management and leadership. The third area is about the training for the business community on entrepreneurship. The fourth area is underground and graduate level for students from ASEAN, particularly students from the CNMV countries. And the final area is in the training of the IT personnel for the ASEAN countries. And my fifth recommendation is about the increasing security cooperation between India and ASEAN. Earlier this morning, we have heard the ministers of commerce who have mentioned about the importance of the Indian Oceans for India's trade, India's economic development. So we also share the view that the safety of maritime navigations in the Indian Ocean, in the South China Sea, that are linked, and we need to have and we would like to see the visible role that India plays to bring about peace, stability for the entire Southeast Asian region. So with that, I would end my remarks here. Thank you very much.